This is TV Campfire, episode 628, and we will be discussing The Last of Us, episodes 1 through 3, The Residents, episodes 5 and 6, Hacks, 1 through 4, and Star Wars Andor, just episodes 1 through 3, because that's each week they've been dropping a lot, and it is a lot. And if you've missed anything, or if you want to jump to any one of the shows, the time codes are in the description below. And with that, let's get on with the show.
TV Campfire Podcast. We talk TV. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Libya, your host, television and movie editor, and I have returning guests.
Hey, this is Peter. I write for We Live Entertainment, and I live in Hollywood.
It's Malik Elamine. I'm managing director of Griot Theater.
Hi, it's Yusun Kim, and I am a costume designer, TV enthusiast from Los Angeles.
All right, and let's get on with the news. We have that Equalizer has been canceled after 5 seasons at CBS. I don't know if that's a surprise. Like, I will say I loved watching the Equalizer at the beginning, but I didn't watch last season. So this is probably my fault.
Libya, if only you had tiled in.
Shogun, which we all knew had been picked up, they're not going to start production for season 2 until January of 2026.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be a while. Just hold on to your seats for that
They're
one.
probably writing the script as we speak.
I have time to finish it.
You haven't, Peter. Shame,
I know, I only watched
Peter.
half of it. It was really good. It was really good. I don't know why I stopped. It was really good.
I don't understand Peter. Peter's like, this is the best show ever, and I'm going to stop watching it.
I know, right? Jensen Ackles and Eric Dane will star in a new action series called Countdown at Amazon. And I like both of them.
Who's Eric Dane?
Eric Dane
Grey's Anatomy?
was from Grey's Anatomy. He was McSteamy.
Yeah.
And he was the captain on The Last of Us.
Oh, he was good on The Last of Us.
Not The Last of Us, sorry. The Last Shift.
The Last
I
Shift.
was going to say, that's a
Totally different show.
You
Totally
worked
different
on
show.
that show. And you
I
can't
did
even
work
remember
on
the
that
name.
show. Is it Diara from Detroit?
Diara.
Thank you. I obviously watched the show, right?
And that's her
Diara?
actual name, by the way.
Oh, nice. And it
Nice.
just got renewed for season 2.
Beautiful news.
That is the news. So apparently you're watching this show, because I was like, somebody I know is watching this show. So I guess it's you. Adaptation for a podcast called American Hostage has been picked up, and it will star John Hamm. He apparently starred in the podcast, and he will star in the show. And it's for MGM Plus.
He's everywhere.
Yes, he's one of those few actors that are working constantly, and like him and Walton Goggins are just on 10 shows at the same time.
Yes, Walter Goggins. Yeah, he is in everything too.
First up, we're going to talk about The Last of Us episodes 1 through 3, and Peter is go ahead, bring it in really slow.
My Last of Us Part 2 Collector's Edition, which came with an Ellie, 19-year-old Ellie, with a lot of blood on her. Oh.
Oh,
The
wow.
tattoo. But she's
Guitar
got the
that Joel
tattoo.
gave her.
Yeah.
And her
That's
Converse.
very cool. Where'd you get that?
Oh, it was part of the Collector's Edition for The Last of Us. When you get... Video games are very big on Collector's Editions. I played The Last of Us Part 2 in June of 2020, the height of the... right when COVID was going. And I got so into it. But I'm very excited to hear what you guys think, because as I recall, Libya, you knew a little, but Yusan and Malik, you guys have never played the game, but you watched the first season.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Episode 1, we
Somebody
deal
else
with the time jump.
5 years
Episode
later.
1, the 5 years later time jump. And the real thing is, where are Ellie and Joel's relationship at that moment? And it's very fractured. Joel lying to her at the end of last season, which has at least started the cracking, but it's obviously accelerated a lot because they're not speaking to each other. And it seems that it's Ellie's decision not to speak to him. And she's so motivated to be independent and her own person and not depend on him anymore that she's doing crazy and kind of dangerous things to prove to herself and to prove to everyone else that she doesn't need him. So that's really the crux of the first episode.
I want to add to what you said, because I agree that Joel lying to her is the central issue. But I also think she's smart enough to know what was behind the lie, right?
Right,
It's
right.
not simply that he lied for her, but he killed a bunch of people for her. And I think she's taken a little bit of that on too.
I think she's smart enough to guess that that's what happened, but I think that the lack of clarity and definition of that is exactly what he did. Like, you let the devil out of the box, and then you can kind of hash it out and talk about it and argue. But the fact that it's never been actually addressed,
Talked
the fact
about,
that it hasn't been confirmed, the fact that she really doesn't know what he did, I think that's actually what makes it more painful and more of an issue between the two of them. So she's just built up this, besides being a regular petulant teen, if there's ever going to be a time when, you shouldn't be a petulant teen, it's probably a post-apocalyptic, moss eating, I think we could have all guessed that this is where it was going to end up. But still, I thought they did a really, really good job. And it was really painful to watch them, being so close all of first season and bonding and really becoming father and daughter, and then having this schism that, you're thinking, how are they going to resolve this?
The whole theme, I think, of that first episode is about how she is trying to make sure that she's no longer dependent upon him for survival. And while I don't imagine she knows exactly how many people he killed for her, she has to imagine there's a reason why he's lying to me, and that it was connected to him protecting her. Right. So while she's mad at him, she also personally doesn't want someone else to have to protect her.
Peter, can you talk about one thing real quick? Because we haven't talked about it, which is the therapist. And I know the therapist is not in the game, so I want to know your opinion of adding the therapist to this.
The game opens with basically the therapist scene, but it's not the therapist. It's basically Joel telling Tommy.
Okay.
It opens with Joel and Tommy, and he's telling her. It's basically also the weight of the narrative to go previously on Last of Us. So basically saying, we got to the Fireflies, we did all this, and then this happened, and Tommy's like, that's a lot. In the therapist in the show,
he doesn't tell her.
I saved her, but Grace, is it Grace, I think?
I think so,
know what that means. So Tommy knows, and then Tommy's like, I'll take it to the grave. I won't tell anybody. Which I actually really liked, that it was this brother conversation, this confessional. But it was interesting that I was like, well, now it's not the brother, now it's a therapist. But that means that he's not necessarily going to open up. And then they had the thing where she's like, well, I'm also mad at you because you killed my husband, Eugene. And she's like, I know you had to do it, but it was the way you did it. And I was like, what was that? In the game, Eugene is referenced. He's this guy who's a big pothead. The thing I was going to say was, and I'd be curious to hear Malik's thoughts, because Malik didn't play it. So back in 2013, I'll try to be really quick on this. 2013, The Last of Us game comes out. My brother, who's younger than me, we both play it. We call each other. My brother was really pissed at the ending. And he's like, I can't believe he killed those people, could have saved, humanity and everything. And then he lies to Ellie. And Neil Druckmann has said many times that when they were making that game and they would do tests, people would be mixed on the end. But there was one demographic that always took Joel's side. Parents. So Malik, obviously, you have an amazing son. Do you think you would do the same as Joel?
I'll pick my son over the world for sure. That's not a question. We will save my son, and then we'll figure out the rest of it later.
There you go.
But what's interesting, though, in that question, Peter, I rather belatedly thought about that question. When I was watching the end of season 1, I didn't actually think about the question of what choice he made. It didn't actually seem like the show was raising that as a question. Do you save Ellie or do you save the rest of the world?
Let's move on to episode 2. I think that was a really good discussion about the end of 1. And 2, I liked the beginning of 2 in that, but also I had the sense of dread because I didn't know what happened. I've been spoiled by the internet, so I knew that at least in the game, Joel didn't make it. But I didn't know if the show was going to do the same thing. And there's this conversation that Ellie has with Jesse when they're talking, and she's like, well, me and Joel made up. He was like, really? You made up like last night? Even though she knew that the two of them weren't speaking at that moment, she still considered them in a good place, which I thought was weird. But it just shows the strength of their relationship, that she really believed that even though from our standpoint it looked like an insurmountable argument, she was just like, we just need to sit down and we'll be fine. She was seeking him out to resolve it, which let me know, that's when I knew. I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. So I started to get more dread as I was watching the episode. And the moment where Abby is getting chased by all those clickers and they come out of the snow, and it was a terrifying image. Like, that was super scary.
That was really well done.
It was really well done. And I was like yelling for her to survive. And then I went, wait, no, I want her to die. Never mind. I take it back. Like, it was like, but it draws you in. The way they did that really drew you in on her side because of the odds were so against her, you know? So I was really just like rooting for her up until the moment that Joel saved her life. And I went, oh.
I will say, as far as chase scenes are concerned and this and that fence falling down.
Oh my God. Yes. That was so good.
I was like, ah! I was like, it was madness.
That's in the game. So they basically did it in the game. But actually, I think they did a really good job in the show. But I mean, it makes sense from a game mechanic because you're the players. You're like, I got to get out of this. Oh my God, the fence is falling.
So this episode is episode 2, and it felt like a finale.
Yeah.
So much happened in episode 2. You have the Avengers, or the Revengers, I will say. Right. Who find their quarry far quicker than I expected.
Yeah.
When they were introduced at the top of the season, I was like, okay, this is their quest. Episode 2 was like, oh, here he is. So, you have that. You have the town being overrun. They're doing the drill.
Was insane.
So when they first did the drill, here's what happens if they breach us. I was like, okay, they're going to breach you. So that happens. And you ultimately have, Joel's ending. There's so much. I did not know that Joel died. I was like, this is Pedro Pascal. They're not gonna, he'll figure something out. So I guess I was the intended audience for this. I had no suspicion that they were going to let him die in episode 2. I was flabbergasted.
I never fast forward through anything except for Glenn's death on
The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. Did not watch
That's valid. That's valid.
And I was like watching I was watching it, and I thought to myself, they're not killing him. They're not killing him. And then I was like, where's my remote control? I was like, I can't watch this. I sent to Olivia, we were talking about it, and I was like, I thought he was going to come back to life. She's like, there's a pole in his neck, in his head.
The whole scene is very claustrophobic, which is the way it is in the game. In the game, though, then once you kill Joe, you kind of like cut. And then here, it was really touching. They do that top shot where Ellie like walks over his body. And I was like, oh.
I was so angry and sad and all the emotions. And the only thing, because the thing that actually made me the angriest of all of this is after they kill him and Ellie is yelling, I'm going to kill you. And they just kind of scoff and walk out. You just see their feet walk by and they just leave her alone with him. I was like, Ellie's going to kill you all. Like, that's all I was thinking. I was like, Ellie's going to kill you all and it'll make me feel better.
In the game, you have to wait halfway through the game to realize that Abby's dad is the doctor. You guys know this in the second episode. So how do you feel? Did you figure it out when you were like, oh, it's the doctor?
You know what?
I don't care.
Did we get told that her dad was the doctor? Because
they tell you in the second episode.
No. I meant like,
No.
Other previous to that. Because I guessed it. I was like, oh, it's got to be her dad. That's why she's like, this vengeance is so, crazy.
I don't think it being her father helps with the motivation or justification. What it does do is add a nice symmetry to the moment where she's killing Joel.
And she's
Because it's like,
the same age.
I had to experience this, now you will experience that. So it's a nice symmetry, but I don't think it helps justify the journey.
The thing is, if she went that far to kill somebody that killed her dad, why would she leave Ellie alive, killing her dad in front of her?
Very quickly, episode 3 for me was very interesting because they do a lot of things you can't do in a game. They have a council meeting about should they decide to move forward. They have another therapy session. There's a lot of things that's not in the game. And I was like, oh, this is... So for me, even though emotionally, they really nailed, no pun intended, with the golf.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
They really did a good job. Pedro Pascal, Belle, everyone did a terrific job in that scene. And I was crying all over again, just like I did in the game. But for me, as a person who has played that game a million times, I'm always refreshed when I see something new, like the Bill episode in season 1. That episode is great because that's not in the game. So for episode 3, I was like, oh, this is interesting. We're seeing how is the town rebuilding? What does this mean? So I really liked episode 3.
I didn't cry in episode 2 because it was so big, the emotions. It was so horrific. And I couldn't process what I was seeing. And also I was hoping that it wasn't actually true. But 3 had this really, like, for lack of a better word, beautiful, but this really like soft, gentle, kind of seeping, sadness and grief and aching.
Like going to Joel's house.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And her and that shoebox. And I thought, oh God, I don't know what's in there, but I know it's going to make me cry. And I was bawling through multiple scenes in the episode, not just that scene, but it was when she gave that speech, that was really well thought out, but not really, because we knew that she was
lying. Yeah, at the council, right?
Yeah, lying through her teeth, but it was still really moving. And I thought, that's right, justice. Like, get them going. Everybody go together. That episode really did its job for me to kind of help me process what I had seen in episode 2. And then, and then when they were getting ready to leave and her best friend was like, we're taking one horse because it's less provisions and we're doing this and I was like so super excited for them.
Yeah, I thought this was a great episode. Also chock full of things, but smaller things, not like episode 2 where all of the world was changing. I have to say, opening the scene with Ellie waking up and having that realization that Joel is dead and she screams. Yeah. I'm like, if you can justify a character screaming like that in your episode, do it, please. I love that. Also, talk about her lying, right? So when she has that meeting with the therapist to get released from the hospital, it was almost painful to watch her lie to the therapist like everything was fine. And you knew the therapist knew everything was not fine. And so then to allow the therapist later in the episode to be like, she's a liar. And the brother was like, oh, there's a difference between lying and being. She's like, no, she's a liar. And I'm like, you're right. Shows and actors sometimes have difficulty figuring out how to present when an actor is lying. And I think that both the actress and the writing dealt with that question exceptionally well in this episode.
Yeah.
Those group of people who have the ceremonial scars, how quickly did they give us the world building of who those people are? They have the scars, the men are bald, the women have braids, and they have this whistle code.
In the game, those whistles are terrifying because then you're like, oh shit, they're everywhere. It's funny that I thought it was very smart and new to introduce them in a sympathetic way. Because when Ellie and Dina find their bodies and you see the little girl and you're like, oh my God, who kills a child? Like, who did this?
So we know this group of people died. We know they're part of a larger group. And they absolutely got me excited to see more about that larger group later.
Also, remember when she said, is it demons? Which I'm assuming means clickers. And he said, no, wolves. And we know, of course, the wolves is the group that Abby.
Yeah.
And remember the greatness of Abby and Dina being like, oh, it's probably not too many people. And then that's like the last shot. It's like, it's an army. It's a huge group.
Final question for the group.
Go ahead.
Who believes that Dina's pregnant?
Why would Dina be pregnant?
Oh, no? No one?
What are you talking
Beautiful.
about?
I thought So at the table at the very beginning when Dina is waiting for Ellie, she does a thing on her stomach, and I'm like, that's interesting. And then when they find the dead people, she vomits, but Ellie does not vomit. She's like, oh, it must be the smell. I think Dina's pregnant.
Oh,
interesting.
I will refrain since I've seen the show.
Don't say, oh, that means he's right.
I was about to say, I feel like you just told us the answer. Next up, we're going to talk about The Residents, episodes 5 and 6. In these episodes, the first one is called All About Harry, I believe it's called, or
The Trouble with Harry.
The Trouble with Harry. And we spend time learning about the brother Trip and the mother-in-law, Nan, I think they're calling her. You never for one second think it's Nan. And you don't really think it's Trip other than he's got the red blinky light on his watch. And we met this kid that's like, I saw a blinking light coming from the room where there was blood. But Harry looks really guilty. Mainly because he's been trying to derail this from the beginning. He has been bullying people left and right to try to make this whole thing go away. And also, I don't like him, so I kind of want it to be him, but it also feels a little obvious if it's him.
It's a little bit like the Princess Bride moment where there's poison in one of the wine cups. And it's like, well, I clearly can't choose a glass in front of you. Like with Harry, it's like, well, he clearly is guilty, but he clearly isn't because you're giving him so much attention.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if you had a feeling before, this episode kind of solidifies the idea that we are going to explore every single option, every single potential suspect for this murder.
Yes.
And because now we know there are so many suspects, there's a little bit of sitting back and just saying, okay, show me how this person is a potential suspect. The one thing that raises the stakes on that a little bit, I'm trying to make sure if this is where AB overhears the conversation between Harry and this business person and an Australian person.
Yes.
Right. That one was enough for me to think, oh, this is a high level reason why somebody might want to actually murder this guy. Yep. So that one worked with me a little bit. I do have to say, again, going to the cultural side of things, the expert on the White House who she sees across the street is a little black boy. He's smart. He's observant. He knows so much about the White House. Just that feeling, it's a little gem to me that it's a little black boy who carries that part of the story. So I like that part.
And I like that everything that he was doing, one, he was very motivated in that he called the White House like 20 times. And then all he wanted was a tour. He was like, I will give you all this information if I can get a tour of the White House. Let's move on to the next episode, because other than my wish fulfillment that it be Harry.
They did close the investigation. They essentially decided that it was going to cause too much trouble for everybody. So the investigation is closed and Cup goes out to some rainforest. So this episode is called The Third Man.
She clues in on the third man at the end of episode 5, and she wants to go on this huge tangent to find him. And they were like, nope, this is a bridge too far.
Yes.
So they thought he was a potential witness. Right. Yeah. And they figured out that he left through a back entrance, and they were like, how did he do this? Who is he? Is he an assassin?
His exaggerated backstory that he basically jumped in a van to get to the White House.
The fact that he ended up getting through all the security checks is insane.
It's crazy.
He gets to the party, then he gets tired, and then he's like, I feel like I should leave. And so he decides to leave early, which led him to be in the same place as the killer. At the same time, the Cup is at her bird watching house. The Senate is having a whole investigation about the third man, and they finally bring him in. And the first version of the story he tells is he's like, oh, I decided to leave and I just went out the door. And they're like, what? That doesn't seem like that's possible. And then they find, she's feeding the guy questions, which I thought was great. And he finally tells you that he did see somebody dragging the body, but he couldn't identify him.
And it turned out the person actually spoke to him and told him not to tell anybody what he saw.
It took monumental self-control for me not to hit play on the next episode. I got to the end of episode 6 and I was like, oh, curses!
The question about who the murderer is falls a little bit by the wayside, and it's just about watching these interesting characters interact with one another. That's been the fun.
What says it to me means that the killer wasn't interesting. I'm making a face. I will say I'm still enjoying the show. And it's very addictive. It is like when you get into it, you want to keep hitting play. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Hacks, episodes 1 through 4. And this season very much, ironically, kind of reminds me a little bit of The Last of Us, where the end of last season, we had a divide happening between the characters. And this season, we see where that divide hits you, because I like them best when they're working together, when they're like a family. And so starting this season out with them so at odds and both of them feeling absolutely betrayed, is just a weird way to start the season. The main thing that I liked about this first episode is that, yes, Eva is the new head writer, but every idea that she comes up with for picking their new writing staff, Deborah shoots it down, no matter what it is, whether it's a good idea or bad, she doesn't care. And just doing ridiculous things to get her fired.
Well, I'm a huge Hacks fan. I've rewatched the first couple seasons more than once for sure. I have to say I'm a little nervous about this season because they really are. I was very excited that this season is about she finally gets her late night show.
Right.
Because we start that in the pilot is that
that's where they're going.
Show, and it didn't air. And it was like, okay, so now she finally gets it. And yes, I agree. I like them when they're working together, but I understand that the dynamics especially of a sitcom is you have to have that back. That's how that comedy works or whatever. The guy who basically is the one who set up all her QVC stuff. So he's leaving and I was kind of like, well, he was a major character. And I was like, does that mean he's really gone? Or is it just...
It looks like it.
I know, it looks like he is. So I was like, oh, I kind of like that. I don't know, there's things like that where when this new season is sort of resetting the table where I'm like, I don't know if I want that character gone now. I get the humor of Ava and Deborah don't get along.
Deborah, yes, it's Deborah.
No, Deborah.
I never knew it was pronounced that way.
That they basically have an HR person there now. Anytime they argue,
yeah,
it's okay. That's not that funny to me. I was like, that's okay for one episode, but I was like, oh my god, is this the whole season? Is episode 3 the writer's room?
That's when they go on the writer's retreat.
I gotta say, I thought it was just okay, and I love this show. So much of the show, I usually disagree with Deborah. I think that Deborah has a lot of outdated views of the world. Of course, that's part of where the humor comes from. While I get why Ava wants the show to be more progressive, and Ava doesn't want to just do tired old jokes. I get it. I totally get that. But I sort of get Deborah's point. She's like, yeah, dude, that's not the show we're making. This is a late night show is for everybody. And so it can't really be as specific as you want it to be.
Peter, I agree with you or your statement about how they're resetting the table. And I just don't know if maybe I want to get up and leave the restaurant because I'm not that interested in the meal they're serving this season. I feel like I've seen it done already where they hate each other through stuff, and that they're on the outs and now they've made up and then on the outs and then they've made up. And, so that one scene where she gets really vulnerable and she starts screaming I finally got what I wanted and everybody is leaving me. And and this happens to me and it's history repeating itself. And, and that was to me very moving.
There are also moments of sweetness. And in episode 4, when she finally has the show, she's so nervous. Remember, she says that it's, she thinks she's having a cardiac arrest. And they're like, well, I think it's a panic attack.
It's a panic attack. Yeah.
That's a really nice moment, though, where she talks to Carol Burnett. And she's like,
oh, that was really good.
I just tried to imagine I'm talking to one person and the whole world, it's this joke. And then she just looks at Ava and she feels better.
I also love that Deborah chose Ava as her single person. I was like, oh,
yeah, that's
I don't say oh too much. Deborah, her arc is that she's operating out of fear. Right? Yeah. Everything she's doing is out of fear of what she might lose rather than trying to take advantage of what she has the opportunity to do. And that culminates throughout these episodes, through episode 4, in that panic attack, which is a physical manifestation of that fear, which I think is great. Even better, they had that metaphysical moment where as viewers, we're hearing her heartbeat, and then
Right.
the sound technician is like, "Oh, the mic is picking up your heartbeat." Like, for Ava, she's like Charlie Brown kicking the football. Like, she keeps thinking Deborah is going to like her now because of what they've been through.
Yes.
And it's like, Deborah is a scorpion.
Right.
She's a fun scorpion, but don't try to ride her back across the river, because she will sting you even if it causes her to drown. And so their conflict can only hold so long. So I do like the fact that by episode 4, we see that neither of them can appreciate the success of that first show without the other. And, that's a nice place.
I think overall, it feels a little mixed, but I think we're still going to keep watching it till the end. Next up, we're going to talk Star Wars Andor, and we're only going to deal with the first pod of 3 episodes. 3 episodes is telling one story. And I kind of do like the idea of dealing with each pod or 3 episodes, our movie, as one thing, because it has a beginning, middle, and end. And then in this first episode, like, he gives a really good speech to that woman that's helping him with the code, because she's really afraid. She's like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing whatever? And he gives her this fantastic speech about what it means to stand up to the Empire and what she's doing and how important it is. Followed immediately by him not knowing how to fly this plane and this crazy comedic moment of him just flying around in a circle. And even what's so great about it is the stormtroopers come in to stop him, and they're just looking like, who is this idiot? Like, they're just like, what?
That scene couldn't have been shot any other way. Any other way would have been far less interesting.
It was hilarious.
Stormtroopers are the worst shots in the universe, as we know. But apparently, like, TIE fighters are very hard to pilot. I like later when he's like, it's harder than you think. And it's like, yeah, it's hard to fly that thing. Like, yeah,
that was a really good moment. And I'd say the open, all of that was really good. I think this arc goes downhill once he gets to the planet where he's supposed to rendezvous with his partner.
Yeah, that was way too long. That was like, I was like, who are these people? Why do I care?
The thing that it really shows is that you have different cells of the rebellion, and you understand why they work in cells, which is if any one group gets compromised, it doesn't compromise the entire organization. Totally makes sense. However, that leads you to having different cells end up shooting and killing each other because they don't know that they're in the same group. He ended up running into a cell of rebels who were just dumb. And I thought that the point of this was that by the end, they would all be following him and that he would have a bunch of new recruits.
Right, but he leaves them behind.
And then I feel like they were too dumb to live. Like, I think that's what
I
he
would
concluded.
prefer the word messy. They're messy is how I would describe them.
Okay.
If they're settling arguments by Rochambeau, I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is not great, man. Like,
no, they should have just had a dance off and just done it that way. And it lasted way too long.
The whole episode lasted too long. That him on the planet lasted too long. Them fighting each other lasted too long. It was too long.
It was too much.
Aaron, a friend of the show, and he's my editor at We Live, he reposted my review of the original season 1 Andor first 4 episodes that Disney had sent me. And I didn't like it. I was like, it feels like they're going for HBO prestige, but it's CW silly. I think that was my post. And I ended up liking Andor when the whole show finished. But my issue with the first few episodes was I was like, well, technically, he's not really on the mission yet. And it takes this long to finally just get him off the planet. And they literally did that again, where I was like, now he's stuck on this planet with these 2 people, these 2 groups that we don't like. And he's not really doing anything until he leaves. And I was like, I can't keep doing this again. Like,
it's too much to have him 3 episodes of not doing anything. So that was probably a downside. I do just want to back up to the moment at the top of episode 1, where the woman who's helping him steal the ship, her performance, I thought, was stellar. This averted eye contact. She doesn't even want to look at him. She's nervous with him, but when somebody else walks into the room, she falls right into character and is all of a sudden this performer. That person leaves and she's back to this shy person who is in awe of Cassian. So I just really, that actress's performance was amazing to me. The leader of the rebellion, who
Luthen.
Yes, Luthen. How he shows up at the wedding party in disguise as himself.
Yes.
I was like, that's kind of cool. We don't have to see him lurking in the shadows anymore. We can see who everybody else thinks he is. And there's very much a kind of a Game of Thrones, what is it, Game of Houses thing that's happening in terms of the political intrigue. Ultimately, I don't think they're fully successful in how that operates. When we talk about Mon and her husband thinks she's having an affair.
Right. Yeah.
And you can see her thinking, is it better he thinks I'm having an affair or that he knows I'm a rebel?
Yeah.
And it's like, we're not sure which one of those is preferable, which is a nice moment.
What I like the theme of this for Mon's story arc is in first season, she sacrifices her daughter to this wedding to hide rebel money. Her friend that she's known since childhood takes it one step too far, and she knows it. Like the moment he starts talking, you can see her eyes start to water, and she knows that she's gonna have to kill him.
Yeah.
And the whole arc of the 3 episodes is her trying to deny that, because Luthen's already figured it out too.
Yep.
But Luthen is trying to like ease her into it, and it's like being in the rebellion is carving off pieces of her. And that, I think, is what that dance was about at the end of the 3rd episode. She doesn't know really who she is anymore. She's kind of she's really depressed and sad and all of that. And that dance was not a dance of happiness. That was really moving to me because her arc in this series moved. Like, that's why I think these 3 episodes were worth watching.
That scene where she was with her daughter, and her daughter goes, and there's an incredibly moving scene, and then the daughter goes, I wish you were drunk. And I was like, oh my God, you're such a bitch. And then there's like one tear acting, it's that like scene where that one tear comes down her face. And I was like, fine, get rid of your daughter. Who cares? Send her on her way. We don't need her.
Wouldn't it have been nice, though, if we could have felt slightly mixed about the daughter?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like she was so petulant. And there was no change.
No.
That what else would she have said other than I wish you were drunk? Like, there was no other path for her.
I thought that her daughter, after she gave that speech, I thought her daughter was going to show some humanity. Yeah. I really did.
Right.
I can't believe that my favorite scene of the first 3 episodes had to do with Syril, who's my least favorite character, like, of this show. But man,
and I anti-ship him.
Is it Deborah? Is that her name?
Yeah, Deborah.
Deborah putting the mom in her place.
Wait, that's
dinner was awesome.
That was amazing.
Like, look, this is you will see him twice a month. This is or you will never see him again. This stops now, and you're like, oh shit. Like, Deborah deals with like the worst, like the Empire. Do you really think she's gonna take any flack from
a mother-in-law?
Yeah. And I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it because I knew that she was not going to be intimidated by this woman at all. The thing that was great is after the woman belittles Syril, you see him, he's just laid on the bed, looking sad. And I was like, oh my God, dude.
This is news to us, isn't it? That Syril and Deborah are together?
Yeah, I guess
okay.
Yeah.
It's not
because I was confused for a little. I was like, "What is going on here?"
It's not new news because he saves her life at the end of last season. Like, he rescues her.
Yeah,
I know. But yes, that was they have this moment where they look at each other, and he's infatuated with her. So it's not super surprising, but for me it was actually disappointing. She could do so much better than him. She could do so much better than him. And I know she's evil. Right. But still, standards.
Earlier you were talking about how Deborah kind of knew but didn't accept that they were gonna have to kill her childhood friend. So I love that. I'm sorry, Mom. Yes.
Yeah.
How she didn't realize she was gonna have to kill or wouldn't accept that she had to kill her childhood friend. So I love when they put that into words. And she said to, I keep forgetting his name.
Luthen.
She says to Luthen, I'm not sure what you're saying. And he was like, "How nice for you."
That was so good.
No, that's
That was
already
so
And, all
good.
right.
That's
Yeah.
that's already a meme. Is that it's him going, "How nice for you." Like,
Yeah.
Like I think
But
it was
the
like
thing is,
people not knowing that Star Wars fans are toxic. How nice for you. Like,
but I think the only thing we haven't talked about that we need to touch on really quickly is on the episode, The Harvest, on the actual planet where Cassian and the girlfriend Bix and his people, like that scene of the attempted rape or sexual assault scene, the Star Wars fans are freaking out. They were like, "This is too much," and I was like,
I thought so
"This is
too.
what happens when you have an authoritarian government who has the power."
Yeah.
To exile people, do whatever. You're going to have people who are power hungry who are going to do stuff like this.
Yeah, I know, but I thought it went on too long, and I thought it was like too violent. Like I didn't.
I felt like it was just.
Sure.
I wanted her to kill him, and it was just violent enough.
That's fine. That's I mean, kill him quickly then. Like it just felt a little out of place tonally. Like I just felt like it was too much, and like when she smacks him upside his head and then he's bleeding and he's like stumbling and all of that, like I felt like I was watching a different show. So it pulled me out of it a little bit. For me, I just thought it was too violent.
Well, I kind of agree with you, son. Not that I thought it was too much, but perhaps one is a bit tropish.
Yeah. Yes.
And so when you're going to do a trope, how you execute it then matters.
Yes.
Right.
And if we're talking about the same show when they're with these bumbling rebels who are playing rock, paper, scissors to solve a dispute, I could see where tonally it does feel like a different show. So I'm not offended that they did it. There is a question of one that seemed to be the point of that whole storyline.
Right.
Which I think that whole storyline was one too slow and uneventful across 3 episodes. And then that is the
culmination.
Apparently why you put the storyline in here in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm not fully satisfied with that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny was Libya said something off podcast that I didn't think of. And in a weird way, I almost wish they expanded on it, was when she hits that guy, right? She hits the guy, and then that guy's driver is outside and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" or whatever. And then there's like a standoff and she's like, "He tried to rape me," and he's like, "Well, he's dead now." And then she kills him. There was a part of me that was like, well, I hope this guy, like, when she says that, like, helps. And then Libya was like, you realize that's probably not the first time this guy's done that. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, that's not the first time that this driver has had a...
He was not conflicted at all.
I'm always hoping that we can have one good person who's like, okay, this is terrible. And it's just like, nope, they're all complicit. Like,
I appreciate that you're looking on it on the
bright nice side. For you.
Yes, exactly. But we're going to wrap this up. This story ended with the death of one of Cassian's friends. Yep. And then he picked up the people that were left and they take off in the TIE fighter and escape.
Which he suddenly is like amazing at flying now.
There is the moment where your assassin girlfriend unexpectedly shows up as a driver for the person who's about to be killed.
Oh, yes.
And that was the thing that I thought that was nice and subtle. They show her pick him up as the driver, and he's going to be killed.
That was a little too mafia for me. That was like a
But it was I thought it was subtle because they don't show him being killed, and I like the girlfriends looking at each other across the way, and they kind of have missed each other.
Yeah.
And I like that was a nice little touch.
Oh, just really quickly, Dedra's new mission is basically about, it's this planet Gorman where they make the spiders make this kind of silk or something.
They make cloth. Yeah, they make
The
cloth.
thing that they really need is basically for the Death Star, right? It's like
it's the ore that's inside the planet.
Correct. And I was like,
that meeting was terrifying.
Yeah.
to have those guys sitting in that room discussing, we need the resources in this planet, and it's probably going to destroy the core. We have 800,000 people who are wealthy. Right. So we can't just go in and take it from them. We have to come up with a smear campaign to make everybody else in the Empire hate them. And then we need a plan to either get them off the planet. It was like, what about a plague? It was like, we sourced that. That's not going to really work.
Right.
And I was like, who are you people?
Yeah,
I thought it was very.
We did the numbers on that one. It doesn't work.
It was
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
it has
Nazi.
to be real quick. Like, you're like,
Exactly.
It was
Yeah,
very
exactly.
Nazi.
But but it was to a point. I feel like those meetings really happened. But Malik,
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
Well, I thought it was very nice that the Emperor, looking for a sustainable fuel source, was rather green. I thought he was, he's into recycling. He wanted to use wind power. I thought, oh, this is a very, very
Palpatine does
altruistic
care about
guy
some
here.
things. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, Gorman I like, because I have looked forward and seen a little more of the next episodes. Gorman, that storyline will be the crux of the next group of episodes. So I thought that was a really good thing that we set it all up here. So let's wrap this all up, and we'll see you guys again next time.
Ciao.
Later. Bye.
Bye.